Welcome back, my friends, to The Explainer. Today we're embarking on a shared journey to reframe a burden pretty much all of us carry. We're going to look closely at that familiar shadow, the one that wakes you up in the middle of the night, tightens up your shoulders, and makes your breathing shallow. But today we are going to view it through a completely new lens. We are talking about stress.
So let me ask you this directly. Is all stress actually bad for you? Take a second and just think about your own daily grind. The deadlines, the family obligations, that heavy weight of expectations. We've been conditioned our whole lives to believe that this pressure is the ultimate enemy. But what if the very thing you're fighting against is also the vital energy you absolutely need to thrive? Here is our roadmap for The Explainer today. We'll be covering the myth of bad stress, Eustress vs Distress, the power of perception, stress in the workplace, real-world stressors, and finally, building stress resilience. Let's dive right in.
Section 1. The myth of bad stress, breaking the universal assumption.
Look, we first have to acknowledge the undeniable toll stress takes on us. Biologically speaking, stress is simply the body's response to changes that create taxing demands. Your experience of feeling worn out? It is completely valid. But researchers like Dr. Hans Selye discovered something absolutely profound. This singular physical response actually splits into two very different paths. You see, stress is essentially a fork in the road. Which brings us to Section 2, Eustress vs Distress, defining the two faces of stress.
This is a brilliantly empowering concept right here. Eustress. Notice that Greek prefix, eu, which literally means good. Good stress. It sounds like a total contradiction, doesn't it? But whether it's the physical strain of a tough workout or the psychological thrill of kicking off a new project, this is the stress of vitality. It actually positively influences your biochemical recovery and your immunity. It's the fuel you need for thriving. Now, on the other path, we have what we usually mean when we say, "I am so stressed." Distress. This is that heavy, unpleasant weight, a deep psychological discomfort that actually interferes with your daily living. And when it goes unresolved, it pulls us downward into anxiety, withdrawal, and a really negative view of ourselves and our environment.
The difference between these two is literally night and day. Eustress motivates us. It's usually short-term, it focuses your energy, feels exciting, and beautifully improves your performance. Distress, on the other hand, brings deep anxiety. It's often long-term, feels entirely unpleasant, drains your performance, and leaves you feeling completely overwhelmed. Let's look at Section 3, the power of perception. It is not what happens, but how you see it. My friends, the line between eustress and distress is drawn right in your own mind. It's deeply rooted in your self-efficacy, which is your belief in your own ability to handle a task. Imagine stepping up to a physical gap. Eustress happens when the leap across is just slightly more than you're comfortable with, but you can still clearly see the other side. Because you believe you can reach it, the challenge actually motivates you. This whole balancing act becomes visually clear when we map it out on an arousal versus performance curve. When stress is too low, we're understimulated, bored, basically. But as interest increases, we climb to the very peak of the curve, optimal arousal and optimal performance. That peak, that is eustress. However, if the pressure just keeps mounting and we slide down the other side into strong anxiety, our performance becomes impaired. Now we are squarely in the realm of distress. But when we ride the very crest of that eustress curve, we enter a state known as flow. The positive psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi coined this term for that deeply productive state where you are so entirely absorbed in an enjoyable activity that the rest of the world just fades away. You lose track of time. It's often described as the most joyous, blissful moment of a person's productive life. Moving on to Section 4, Stress in the Workplace, Challenge versus Hindrance. Let's bring this right down to your daily desk. If a workplace task is seen as a challenge, it creates positive eustress. But if you see it as a hindrance, it becomes distress. This is exactly why stress management interventions, or SMI, are so fascinating. Their goal isn't actually to magically eliminate all stress, because remember, we need some stress to achieve things. Instead, they use exercise, meditation, and relaxation to transform our reaction. The goal is to turn the raw stimuli of a demanding job into productive eustress. Section 5. Real-world stressors, the surprising sources of pressure. So what actually triggers these responses in the real world? Well, we first have to acknowledge the sources of profound distress: the loss of a loved one, a difficult divorce, unemployment,
bankruptcy, or even chronic sleep problems. These carry an undeniable, heavy burden. They naturally push us way past our limits, and we have to approach these moments in our lives with immense grace and seek communal support.
But get this, there are also some really surprising sources of eustress. Marriage, buying a new home, even taking a vacation or navigating the holiday season. I know we can all probably smile knowingly at that last one. These are deeply joyous occasions, but they demand so much adjustment that they absolutely trigger our stress response. But because we desire them, our mind frames them as eustress. They challenge us, sure, but they build a richer life.
Finally, Section 6, Building Stress Resilience, Mastering the Balance.
So how do we forge all this knowledge into armor we can wear every day? It begins with this profound realization. Stress tolerance is the power to endure stress, and that tolerance can change depending on your condition. You simply cannot completely eliminate stress from your life. A life without stress is literally a life without growth. The actual goal is to master how you manage its symptoms and actively expand your tolerance over time.
To become truly stress-resistant, we have to practice daily habits. Number 1, stop feeling guilty over things that are outside your control. Number 2, be decisive and make clear choices. 3, avoid being a perfectionist. Release that heavy trap. 4, set your priorities straight. 5, stop procrastinating because delay only breeds distress. And number 6, above all else, praise yourself. Celebrate your ability to overcome the gap. Acknowledge your own undeniable strength.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer today, and to a final vital question I want to leave you with. The next time you face a taxing demand, when your heart is racing and the pressure is mounting, will you let the pressure break you into distress? Or will you embrace the eustress, tap into your own belief, and let it build you? The choice, my friends, is entirely yours.